What I like about the cemetery is that it's really peaceful. You don't get really any negative energy from it. You don't feel like you're in danger. It's just really, really peaceful. We're in the old historic part. I don't know if you can see that. Oh wow, you can see it better than I can. Look, oh, it's my shadow. Bad positioning. Then over there's a fence that separates this cemetery to that cemetery. That's a Catholic cemetery. That place over there, I have more of a panicky feeling over there than I do here. Here, it's just really pleasant. You don't worry too much. And then I get closer to the cemetery, and there's this panicky feeling. It's not like super panicky, but it's like you might not want to go over there kind of feeling. My dad actually saw an apparition over there. He said it looked like an old man, but you could only see the top half of him, and you couldn't see like the lower half. Thing is he was walking with the dogs, and dogs usually pick up on paranormal. Animals in general tend to pick up things that we don't see. This one is really old, but they were in the military. I just can't make out what that says. Like, one thing I hate doing is like stepping over where the people are buried, because I feel like it's disrespecting, even though, people are like, oh, but they're gone. Ooh, spider. You. But the thing is that sometimes they do reside where they are buried, where their body was last found or seen. Like, there's this really weird thing going on in Florida, and I don't know if it's just in Florida, but people tend to do rituals, like satanic rituals. And what was once, oh, this one you can't see at all. Look at all those acorns. So what was once a peaceful place ends up being something you don't want to even go near. My dear wife died April 16th, 1898, age 18 years. A precious one from us has gone. A voice we love is stilled. A place is vacant in our home. It's ever, I don't know, the rest be, like, I can see can be chilled or something like that. I don't know. Some of these are so old that it's just like there's nothing on it anymore. Elizabeth Hancock, wife of Dash Taylor, born March 6th, 1845, died March 11th, 1892. These have a specific reason. I can't remember if I told you that, like, because it rains so much here, there is a potential for flooding, and bodies can potentially float up to the surface. So they weigh it down with concrete. This is obviously the Osgood plot. Staff Sergeant, 38 Aviation, American Air Force, World War II. There is also a lot of infants buried here, but the infants, or the children, see that? Focus. They were in the 1800s to the early 1900s, and if you know anything about that era, there is, like, yeah, I know, my shadow's in the way, sorry. There is, the mortality rate, children and infants back then, was really high because they didn't have what we have today, medically anyways. That's a footstone. So, the casket right there, that's where their foot is. Pretty interesting. I found that out. Here's another family plot. I don't really want to go in there because there's footstones and I don't know where they're buried. That says Martha Cadson died January 31st, 1897, and she was 49 years old. And that one's a little bit harder. I can't read that for you guys, sorry. Like I said, some of these are really old, so a lot of it is faded. So you're just not going to be... This one was in the military. There's a lot of military graves here too. Oddly enough, though, I haven't seen any from the Civil War. This one is so faded. There's an interesting grave over yonderly. It's in Slavic. But another reason why I don't want to go over there, they have sand spurs over there, and they are a doozy to get out of your shoes. Hate sand spurs. There's a guy over there also looking at these historical so I want to sort of I mean, I'm sure it would be no issue with that, but sometimes people like their space, like I do. And it's only because I have anxiety disorder. sometimes I can, like, be fine with being around people, and other times I just can't. Like, that has sunken into the ground. So you can see wife of, and then died, and you just don't know. Like, if you ever see, like, my camera ever get blurry, it is because it is focusing on something that it can't see. So, like, you can see how crisp and clear it is right now. Like, if it ever ends up getting blurry, that's what it... Oh, these are so old. In Corinne, where I grew up, me and my siblings grew up, we had these. And, I mean, it's so old. That's how old it is. Like, it has no name. You don't know who's buried there. But the thing is that I learned that they use that kind of wooden tombstone for unknowns. Like, so if a prisoner died, see, this one sunk into, they would use those wooden tombstones as their tombstone. So some of the times they only would have the name, and that's it. And other times they would have the day they died, or it would just be blank. That's what I read anyways. Like, I don't know, it's just really interesting how we and do this. But, like, what another interesting thing that is so faded as well thing around here is, and I'm sure they do it back out west, is that they will bury the ashes. And so over the ashes there'll be a metal placard. It'll have the name and the day they died and everything. They won't have, sometimes they won't have a tombstone. Sometimes it'll just be that metal placard, which I find pretty interesting. If you actually ever watch, like, paranormal hunters on YouTube, they go to graveyards, they will actually end up calling out to whatever's there, or sometimes they'll just be walking around and things will happen. I do not call out to spirits. Spirits call out to me. They will make their presence known if they want to be known. These are so old, they've just fall over. I would lift it up, but I'm not strong enough. Sorry. In memory of James White, born April 29th, 1868, died September 13th, 1889. He followed virtue as his truest guide, lived as a Christian died. And then it tells you when this was erected. There's like only so many Sarah Cook, born May 15th, 1846, died March 3rd, 1924. Asleep in Jesus, blessed sleep. See, what I first wanted to do was just walk around here quietly, not say anything, and maybe put some music into it. But obviously it didn't go that way. I have noticed also on the newer tombs they don't have footstones. Sarah Small died December 22, 1886, age 35 years. She was a year older than me. This is her husband, Reverend Henry Small, born at Allendale, South Carolina, died at Palaca, Florida, November 13th, 1894. And he was 56. He outlived his wife by a good mile. Longer than a mile. I guess we can go over there and look at some of them. Like, I don't know if you can see it. There are some mausoleums here. It's really peaceful, except for there's like a construction place over there. That's what you're hearing. But there is a certain time of day when it is quiet and you can just sit here and listen to the birds chirp and the squirrels talk. It's super nice. Like, most cemeteries, honestly, that I go to, because I'm spiritually sensitive, I end up feeling panicked. I feel dizzy and faint, and that's because that is how a spirit is. Like, the spirit can actually take energy away from you and your devices or whatever you're carrying, so it can manifest. But there was a time in where I was raised in Corinne, I went to a cemetery, and I don't think you can see this one. Why can you see it better than me? So she was the only daughter of John and I don't know the mother's name. She was born the 5th, September 5th, and departed July 6th of 1880. And then it has a scriptures piece there, I believe. Oh. So last time I came here, there were people actually in that gazebo over there. And I was really freaked out about it because people do weird things in cemeteries. Like I said, they tend to do really weird rituals, like satanic stuff. And then it makes a place really sketchy when you go. And this is the first cemetery I have ever been to that I wasn't feeling really anxious about being in. Like, sometimes I'll just come here and just sit and think, because that's how peaceful it is. So anyways, the story that I was telling you about Ray and I, so I went to one of those wooden there were two, and they were in the far end. They were the wooden tombstones, and I wanted to see how old they were. They were pretty darn old. They were as old as the one that I showed you, where it was rotting pretty much. And as I was standing there looking at it, I started getting dizzy. It felt like the world was spinning. And something sort of told me, like, right next to my ear, you need to move away. I did. There's also a lot of masons here. A lot of masons. So as I moved away, I no longer felt that dizzy feeling. Like it just stopped. Cemeteries always fascinate me. It tells you how these people lived, who lived here, who immigrated here, who moved here. Like it's very diverse. There's Slavic people, there are actually Asians that live here, people from England and Scotland and Ireland and Germany. It's very, very diverse. One thing I will not do, I refuse to do it, is come to a cemetery at night. That in itself is freaky, and I get easily scared. Being spiritually sensitive sort of makes you on edge. And I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling that I always have to look over my back. So I had this other experience I forgot to tell you guys. How I actually really knew that I was spiritually sensitive is back when I lived in Colorado. I was in my bedroom and all of a sudden I got this image of this man on a bed, bleeding. I mean, there was just blood all around his head, and it was seeping down his back and everything. And we call our great-grandfather and grandmother on my mom's side Oma and Opa. And it's German for grandma and grandpa, by the way. And I go out to my mom, and I go, "Mom, how did Opa die?" Turns out he slit his throat in his bedroom, and my Oma found him. The image I saw was exactly that. Was my Oma finding my Opa dead. He slit his throat with a straight razor. Those old-fashioned razors. That was an interesting experience. I don't know why my Oma wanted me to know that, or whether it was my Gramps or Nana, I'm not sure. But it was a true sign that it was them saying, you have this gift. And honestly, I don't really use my gift that much. I turn it off most of the time. Except for there was a time recently, we had this really huge rainstorm. And my bedroom is out near the steps up to the back porch. And you could clearly hear thumping noise, loud thumping, banging noises. And it shook me awake. And I looked at my cats, because cats usually know if it's like whatever it is something you should be concerned about or not. They were just sleeping, lounging, doing what cats do. So I wasn't really too worried about it, but it was very loud. My dad actually heard it as well. And I guess in the morning, my dad went to see if somebody broke into our upstairs. Nothing was amiss. Everything was there. And like, I figured that it was most likely the people who built the house and lived there. I mean, the house is 100+ years old, so there is some history behind it. It has seen some things, I'm sure. So I'm gonna go over to this mausoleum over here, and then I'm gonna end the video. Almost at 30 minutes. It's interesting. That's another thing around here, is that ferns like to grow wherever they can. Whether they are welcomed or not. Alright. Well, I guess this is goodbye for now. As always, be brave, be you, be wonderful. Most of all, I love you guys. Bye.